Thank you very much, Desk. All right, look, Matt, for the love of God, let's talk about this first game because obviously a very different look for the Boston Uprising. It's like a change of tack here where Seeker's being brought in much more of the time and there's a change of role assignment here, that secondary DPS. Boston showing us they've got a few more tricks up their sleeve here, and it's sort of just as well because a lot of those play-ins matchups are locked in. They have to play against Florida first.
Which is a really tough matchup with how we've seen Florida obviously play the other day. I think like all of those play-in teams are so equal right now. Like it's really gonna be like matchup dependent, I think, on like who actually makes it out. Where maybe that first matchup for Boston's gonna be tough because like Hydron's playing at a sick level, right? Like Seeker is gonna need to play the Sojourn at that high of a level to keep Boston in it.
Yeah, and in the meantime, of course, the Paris Eternal stand in the Boston Uprising's way. Look, a team that have had to retool multiple times throughout this season, but on the Boston side, Crimzo has been back in the lineup now, of course, as we're seeing a little bit more of that double flex support or a little bit more of that Ana. If it's Ana or Baptiste, Crimzo is your guy. He's actually #1 in sort of fewest deaths and #1 in enemies slept so far in the Countdown Cup. So big part of their prowess is his mechanical skill continues to drive them forward.
It's also interesting because Boston had a rough stretch throughout the season, right? Where, Crimzo, Punk, like Seeker obviously wasn't of age yet, but like weren't seeing playing time, but they seem to be like the players that fit in the best, right? And like you end up losing a ton of games. Like, not saying you play Punk and Crimzo and all of those turn to W's, right? But you don't know. Like they could have actually found themselves way closer to guaranteeing a spot than many people would have expected. Because Punk and Crimzo have been that good in the support and the tank role.
Yeah, so they have a good idea of what lies ahead of them, right? There's, with the Florida Mayhem standing in their way, and they still have to beat the winner of the Defiant and the Justice to make playoffs. So it's not out of the question, but now they really need to get their motor turning over, and they really need to start to show that they're more than just a team that gets to slip into the play-ins here in 10th, mind you. So they are, that lowest-ranked Western team to make play-ins. A lot on the line for the Boston Uprising over the coming weeks here, and they want to start on the front foot. A lot of good things to hang their hat on in this roster we talked about, but we're still unsure about what this Seeker and Victoria tour de force is supposed to look like. It looks like there are some discussions. I think Victoria and Punk are actually talking to each other based on where they're at, so I know that they're looking in different directions, but that's the way it is. Let's have a look at the Paris Eternal here, Matthew, with a single win to their name over the course of this season. It's been tough, but this newest iteration of the Paris Eternal roster has had some good signs. Luke Mino as well has impressed me multiple points on that Baptiste.
And I think we've seen some positive things from these players. I don't think they came into the easiest situation at all throughout the season. So I'm hoping we obviously see a good performance from them today, but more in the future of like how they develop, whether as a team or individually, because I think there's some talent. Malthal also trying to get inside of his camera.
All right, fair enough.
Oh, I mean, that is.
I think, I don't know if he's trying to be intimidating or he's just, check these eyes. These are sharp. I'm ready to spot these opportunities across the map to dive in on the Tracer and find eliminations. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say he's looking for. Look, this team, again, something maybe not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but this is probably the last time we actually see the Paris Eternal, as the Paris Eternal, take to the field in the Overwatch League, right? With the changes coming with this organization next year. Essentially their last outing as we know them. So we're definitely hoping to see the fruits of a really long year.
Oh, yeah. And, they're going to be in Vegas here in 23. So really last kind of go around here for Paris is got the tweet up on your screen now. So Vegas getting everything. I mean, they got football now, hockey. They should have basketball, but they don't. That's another conversation to have. But they'll have the Eternal. So then maybe you kind of get to a new place, Mitch. Right? Everything starts over again. Things start going in the right direction.
Yeah, an opportunity as well to think about what formula is going to be the best to carry them through that 2023 season. But for now, we need to see, I guess, the culmination of their efforts here in 2022. Boston Uprising, 9-14. A season where they themselves have had no shortage of, mix-ups and changes, especially, when it came to deciding who was going to be the player at Tank to kind of lead this team forward, right? Boston, definitely made some investments at, trying to create a very strong role at Tank, but they end up falling back on one of the most consistent components of this roster, right? Punk is the player to lead them forward.
It's kind of crazy. Almost like they went out of their way the entire season to like try not to play Punk, even when he was like playing really well. They trade for Mag, right? They've it's on the roster. They've just kind of rotated around the circus of tanks, but Punk has always played consistently. So now you have him in here at the end. You've seen your best results. Looking to potentially lead into a victory today. So Victoria hovering over the 76 here. So 76 with the Sojourn in the mix here for the Boston Uprising. That's a lot of damage. Where Paris Eternal, they have to be careful. Nobody can get caught out here because, including the Batiste in the way, right? Going to be very difficult to live for long in the open.
Kind of expecting to see Victoria try and play off angles here or wrap around a little bit. The Eternal, though, really just want to go en masse into the entire lineup of the Boston Uprising here. Maybe deny Victoria the time he needs to get a lot of damage done over the course of the fight. Paris want to take this engagement, but Punk is able to hold strong in the front line, and he just laser removes Luke Mino from the Paris Eternal lineup here. So the Eternal, they're the ones to go forward, but looking a bit scrappy.
Yeah, as they're not able to find anything, as Boston will take the point first. I mean, look, if you try and get aggressive, right, especially even with that Tracer, Punk's got both bubbles to use. He'll get charged up. Just going to be able to just burn players down with the amount of damage they're able to put out. So we'll see Paris just kind of waiting here a second, maybe trying to get that speed back. We're going to amp up, make a play, but you see Boston, they rotate out. They don't even want to take the fight up here.
Yeah, again, setting up in such a way to slow the Eternal down, give Victoria a nice little vantage point. It's going to be crucial for them here. And again, they do kind of counter-rotate with the Paris Eternal. The Boston Uprising control the point. They're not really incentivized to take a 5v5 that they're at risk of losing here. They don't want to group up either as that Pulse Bomb becomes more deadly, but Dove's able to remove Seeker there. Now we're starting to find some key connection with those railguns, and Crimzo has to throw down an Immortality Field, but needs to contest with Paris's drone, and it's going to be Malthus finding a connection with that Pulse Bomb here. Paris able to get back in and start controlling this point.
Yeah, as just really the Pulse Bomb and the M-Matrix need to use there for the Paris Eternal. So being able to flip the point, not letting Boston get up to that 50% mark. This next fight, though, I think is going to be massive for both teams, right? You're going to have, the Grav online, sound barriers, Tac Visor here for the Boston Uprising. You're going to see a lot of ultimates dumped into this one from both teams.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this Tac Visor plays out. Okay, Victoria pretty preemptive here, but he knows he's playing the off angle now based on how Boston approach the point, but that's a perfect railgun to shut that ultimate down. Dove completely pacifies Victoria, and that's going to be a sound barrier for Rack Attack to give the Eternal the gumption to go forward.
And Boston with that Tac Visor, like it's on that off angle, maybe just trying to force everybody from Paris behind cover, and then you can like bully them out, but it does not work at all as Dove hits some really nice railgun shots. That kind of turns the tide there in that fight where, yeah, if Victoria is able to use that Tac Visor from the kind of like top choke there, shoot down towards the point, if Paris is forced behind those pillars, Boston, you can kind of like speed boost into them, right? And, they kind of have to hold that position, or they move back into the line of sight of the 76. That shot from Dove is huge, though. Eliminates that entire play from happening.
Sold's really weak against snipers, and that's kind of what Sojourn becomes during that ultimate, especially. Krawi pushes up here, Air Matrix in play, combines very nicely with the Graviton Surge, if I do say so, and it'll be a pretty resounding Eternal fight win now as they're going to go to 85%.
Yeah, it's, for Boston, you're just going to have this Amp Matrix, but not exactly the type of ultimate you want with the point ticking up towards 100%. You're going to have to stay right around that area to be able to get great value out of it. So, see Crimzo kind of maybe working along the outside. It's going to be Punk who's going to have to get on the touch.
Oh, Dove, another one. This time it's Victoria on the Genji to get shut down. Stunning headshot with that railgun. This puts the Uprising well and truly behind the 8-ball to start with. And now Dove's looking for an off angle of his own. An Air Matrix there from the Boston Uprising, but unclear really how much they've already gotten from that, as the Eternal can just hide behind this architecture on the point. And now Dove wants to go forward here. No chance for the Uprising to touch the point. Dove really taking the round over.
Oh, yeah. We've seen some good performances from Dove in the past. Really good performance here from Sojourn, Dove on the Sojourn at the start. And that's kind of like where you look forward to the Boston Uprising against the Florida Mayhem. And, you know, obviously Dove, very good player. You would probably put Hydron in another tier, though. And if you're going to have trouble, like, kind of really corralling Dove on the Sojourn, like, I imagine that play-in is going to be really tough.
Yeah, it's a great point. If we're starting to look forward and sort of both at this game and also at the next one for the Uprising, it's a little bit of a worrying sign. As a team who's only been able to scrape that one win this season is putting so much pressure on you. Boston definitely need to shore these things up and use this game as an important test run for what their approach is going to be further down the track. Let's see how this plays out now.
So oddly enough, is like this a really terrible matchup for the Boston Uprising in the sense that, like, if you win against a team that's 1-22, do you really gain like a ton of momentum off of this win, right? But like if you were to lose this game, for instance, like it is such a booming probably going into play-ins that it would seem like a massive L, a huge negative. It'd be like the only thing people talk about going into the week about the team. Where oddly enough, like a decent amount of pressure just because you don't want to lose the Eternal.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's going to do wonders for your confidence, that's for sure. Especially against a Mayhem team that are trending in the opposite direction based on what we saw from their outing against the Outlaws. So, Boston, though, look, limited bandwidth for consideration of this stuff, Matthew. You probably need to focus on the here and now. Off to a good start of this round, but Mountful finds a way in. He's actually switched over to the Genji from the Tracer that he's been on for much of this map. Man, Paris, that's as close to like a neutral fight as you're going to get with like Zarya-based compositions. They just kind of win out some of these individual stashes.
Yeah, they just kind of walk them down, right? Push them back. Mountful able to just, I mean, you saw when he crossed that whole gap in the middle of the map, like wasn't really taking any fire, no pressure on him, was able to get in, get a dash and a kill as he moves away from the Tracer over to the Genji. Is Crimzo Co trying to like work their way here towards, but you've already lost your tank, you're gonna have to back up now.
Yeah, Immortality Field as well is just not gonna hold up there. That's such a long corridor for Crimzo to have to risk turning his back and walking straight back up. And yeah, Paris are gonna punish Boston. Seems like an interesting way to try and take a fight, or a place, rather, to take the fight. Because you're probably hard to get good amplification matrix value for Crimzo. Let's see where the Uprising try and go now. Probably straight back to main, I want to suggest, but the high ground is being contested.
And you're going to have a sound barrier for both of these blades that are going to come out. So Victoria using his, he gets really low.
I feel like he knew what was going to be used in response there. Both teams used their sound barriers at the threat of the Dragon Blades. So now let's move on to the next cadre of ultimates. It's going to be a Dove overclock here with Lucamino's Immortality Field having gone down. Krawi's going to now use the Graviton Surge, and Seeker looks to get value from his own Amp Matrix. And Amp Disrupt the Shot seems to have done the trick as Boston can rotate down to the point.
Yeah, as Lucamino uses his Amp Matrix in the fight previously, so Crimzo having that there, being able to shoot it directly towards like that grab, you know, get a line of sight of that. Also, like, once the Amp Matrix went down, if you kind of were paying attention at the time, like, Malta went in trying to make a play for the supports, took a ton of damage. I mean, he went down like 5 HP. Basically was out of the fight for most of the time, just trying to, like, get some healing or health packs. So, big win there for the Boston Uprising, but 75% already for the Eternal. It's like, you just need, like, one fight to go your way, and I feel like you're in a really good spot to steal map number 1.
Oh, Victoria. Matt, again at the start of the fight, takes a ton of damage. Dove able to pressure him down with just a charged rail body shot, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't deflecting at the time, and Paris can quickly flip this back unless Seeker can shut this down. Wasn't looking very likely anyway. Rakitak will mark the place of his fallen opponent here as we'll have a flip back for the Eternal. These two teams, dare I say it, very evenly matched.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, is like really back and forth between these teams. I think if you're the Boston Uprising, you're really like, you know, Seeker's got to come alive here, and also like Victoria, like dying early in some of these fights, taking like loads of damage at the front, slowing the team down. So at this point, you're just trying to like, what, maybe farm a Blade, farm an Amp Matrix, and you're looking at last fight terrace where you lost Crimzo.
And he had the Amp Matrix, Matt. He was the one that we're going to rely on there just for the extra push to get him over the line. But instead, the Boston Uprising just fall to pieces. They shatter. There's no putting him back together now. The Paris Eternal take the first map in this series as Boston shaky is a nice way of putting their outing so far.
Shaky is a very nice way. I thought you saw Paris look really good in round number 1. I thought that was really like Dove coming alive on the Sojourn, but you know, this second point, a full-on team effort there from the Paris Eternal, you know, recognizing what the Boston Uprising were trying to do at the end there, build for that Amp Matrix, collapse onto Crimzo, prevent him from even getting it off.
All right, Paris, good looks for them so far. Dove definitely been on fire. He has a great map. Everyone combining for a good result for the Eternal. Let's see if they can extend this lead or if Boston have a little bit more of this lead.
Booms Astra off the mat. Luke, heal me! Luke, please! They got the rally, they got the help, and they're going to collect this map. It's whapping it with a double pulse. Yeah, look at that dart hitting the old skewed happy. But it's just done away, hit it.
All right, pretty clean stuff from Dove on Busan across the entirety of the map, Matthew. Sojourn looks excellent. I mean, from things like this, shutting down attack visor just as Victoria tries to open up. You know what I mean? He's taking risks trying to deal with such long-range hit scan and playing an off angle, but Dove did a heck of a lot with what he was given. Very solid showing here. Neither team really, there weren't that many fights. There was actually a lot of back and forth, a lot of posturing in this particular matchup. And then people just sort of kind of getting soloed out there as the sort of the two masses of five trying sort of
the entire map was like one long game of Colosseo at the start where everybody just postures for position.
San Francisco versus Washington-esque Colosseo. I will say a lot of the Genjis, Genjis get hammered there, right? Like, I mean, both Victoria and Malthul are just like 5 HP at the start of each of these fights.
Yeah, and I think that's probably just the nature of like playing the Genji into like the BAP and things like that, right? And trying to go in and, you know, make plays, especially if your Zarya doesn't have bubbles for you. I think as we go into King's Row, which is map number 2, I think maybe like Punk pulls out some like Sigma type stuff, but Zarya, D.Va, just seem to be so strong in terms of the tanks right now that like, and Sojourn just seems to be so dominant, whether it's, Overwatch League, whether it's the live game, right? Like, where if you're Sojourn, if you're the Paris Eternal, like Dove is like playing how he played in map number 1, you have an excellent chance to win this series.
Especially because, I mean, Dove's going to have the opportunity to play just like that for the entirety of the series. It's
every
not like
map,
it's not like he's not on some niche hero that just gets rotated in on a particular map. Sojourn is such a mainstay for so many teams right now. Good to say that Genji fills a similar role. I guess, we probably wondered like what Malthul would be able to do on the Genji. Normally we'd sort of seen him on the Tracer, and now a lot of teams are starting to move away from that. And Malthul, obviously, there have definitely been a few matchups where Malthul struggled to hit the backline hard enough. Definitely dealing with like elite Zens and other supports. Very, very difficult for him in some of these series to really rack up the numbers. But maybe the Genji represents an opportunity for him to start to stack those bodies up a little bit. But the Uprising on defense here, no surprises with their composition. I know we talked about Crimzo's Arn at the start of the game, but it's very much a Lucio Baptiste meta right now.
And I think for both of these teams, I think what you've seen with the league right now, this seems to be, really it's just the Zarya, the Lucio, and the BAP seems to be the consistent things with the meta. Sojourn, I would say, has played most of the time with it, and they'd kind of just throw your flanker in there, right? Sombra, Genji, Tracer, Reaper, like anybody in that kind of world. It just seems like the combination of the Lucio's speed and the mobility to get the Zarya in place with the Baptiste able to stay alive for a long time is really impactful. And I mean, that is not the start you want if you're the Boston Uprising, as it's Dove getting another first pick.
This is what I'm saying about Malthul. He's had problems trying to do exactly that. Crimzo just in the 1-to-1, able to win that out. Albeit, I mean, looked a bit fortunate from Malthul's POV, but hard to say. Crimzo gets yet another one there, and Paris looked like they'd be starting to open things up after that Dove pick, but no.
So, dude, like the BAP Immortality Field, the Regenerative Burst, that doesn't even take into account healing, getting from another support. It is so difficult to take out the Baptiste. Like,
the burst is
incredibly difficult as a Genji.
The fact that you get so much health up front from that ability now, it's just filthy. He has so many burst healing abilities now. Pretty scary stuff. Dove again probing for another opener. Hoping to use the statue here as vantage, but he doesn't find it, and no one on the rest of his team does either. So Krawi at least getting punked for his trouble, and maybe there's a chance to pressure a spawn advantage here, but Victoria now just lighting them up.
Nah, Victoria cleaning up, and they've had, you can tell Paris, they're having a really difficult time, like getting Punk away from that statue area. He's already at the grab to Krawi 68%, as he's been able to get extremely charged up, whether it's, bubbles on himself or protecting his supports. And just so tanky, really not able to dislodge him from the statue area. You see he's able to cut off the left and the right. Dove with another first pick, though.
Graviton Surge here from Punk. This should even the scale somewhat, but Malthul's able to find Seeker. So despite that huge Zarya ultimate here, the Uprising are going to lose this fight. Fate trying to get away here, and Victoria really looking for exits at this stage, as it's already one tick and counting for the Paris Eternal, who will have a grab and all these other fantastic ultimates into the next phase of the map.
Yeah, and it looks like, you know, does Boston try and challenge this? You still have Victoria there. He's got a blade, and they're going to sound barrier.
And they're going to force ultimates here. The Eternal have so much to work with. And Paris obliged. 3 ultimates, 4 of them get used here by the Eternal. And then better hope it's going to be enough. Luke Minos lost that immortality field here, but Dove moves out to try and keep the capture going. 2 ticks and change. But Dove gets forced away from the point, and the Uprising explode back into this defensive effort.
And I like that decision there from the Boston Uprising. Worst case, you lose that fight, but you get all these ultimates out of the Paris Eternal. That Ant Matrix, though, in the corner, they were never able to get Crimzo, Punk, and Seeker out of that position. So now everybody kind of back to the Paris Eternal. It's not even really like a fight reset. They're just going to go in and try and challenge this again.
You see, Punk's trying to stand on his own 2 feet there, but he still gets burned down. There's not enough healing there for him. And even though the Uprising slowed the Eternal down, they force those ultimates out. Not able to hold for long enough.
It's still worth, I think, like taking that early fight that you know, Boston did and like challenging yet again, because it gets all those ultimates out. You have a better chance of holding here in the street space. Like, imagine they give up that point, right? And you know, you would add a fight at the choke, and Paris has grab, beat, blade, like, you know, they would have had like Matrix, like, and there would have been no shot. You give yourself a much better chance to hold before this B checkpoint with the way they played that.
Plenty of time to build up. Their next set of ultimates. Faith shuts Mouthful down again. He is cut down on his way to the back line. Faith far from done, though. Really the fixer when it comes to Brig. Mercy, Lucio. Kind of does it all. And now it will be another occasion on which the Eternal are bundled out of this part of the map.
So, I don't know what you have to do if you're like Maltha to be able to stay alive, right? So every time he goes in, tries to make a play, yeah, whether it's Faith, Crimzo, some help from Seeker there, just really difficult on Maltha to really make anything happen here on the Genji, where you gotta like maybe like eventually switch off.
Maltha will try to stand his ground here against Victoria's Blade. It'll be the sound barrier for the Paris Eternal now. Graviton Surge there. Punk lets that one go. Victoria trying to capitalize. Luke Mino, yeah, stuck in the corner. No chance of escape. And again, Paris are deflected. Okay.
Yes, I mean, you still don't even have a blade here from Malthal, as Victoria ends up using his there. Sound barrier as well. Beats from both sides. So Cry maybe with this grab. So grab, you know, with the overclock, you know, disruptor shot from the Sojourn, and then the overclock, being able to just do like loads damage through it. That's a possibility here. And then you can save that blade for the final fight before checkpoint B is Boston. You see they're backing up.
Oh! They're looking for that early grab, I guess, but the Boston Uprising were ready for it. They also have an immortality field around the corner, Matt. So Paris can't get rid of it. That grab gets completely stuffed.
Yeah, so what happens is like they kind of back up, and Paris thinks that they can like run in and grab, like kind of chase them out. And Crimzo drops like an Ant Matrix right on the corner. So when Crawley goes up and uses the grab, just gets like deleted there by all the damage coming through that Ant Matrix.
Paris are in trouble now. 52 seconds left in the round, and a Dragon Blade to hang their hats on. Malthal better make it happen. He's looking to go in, and that's basically how things have gone for him for this entire series. Sad but true, as the Paris Eternal can only ride the thin end of the blade to victory there, and it's just not enough.
Yeah, like what do you do here? If you're the Paris Eternal, right? You're having a difficult time getting through this choke. 30 seconds on the clock. You're really down nothing to work with. I think you really got to consider like maybe this composition going into that next half. Like, is the Genji something you want to, you know, keep going with? You can maybe even try the Tracer.
Malthal diving, gets a bubble. So this time doesn't die on his way to the back line. Punk, Graviton Surge here. Your win condition, Malthal, is to deflect it. Ah, well, better up next time. He does have the deflect, but it's a little too late. And Punk's able to burn him down. Fate looking a little bit low there, but the Immortality Field really helping Boston stay in this. The Immortality Field down. Punk gets Luke Mino now as well. Dove has to come alive in a big way to get Paris to keep moving. Rack Attack, Sound Barrier does come up with good timing, but Seeker has the perfect vantage in that fight just to ruin the Eternal. And he absolutely delivers in that regard. Paris are going to be stopped midway through the map. Very unconvincing attack.
Yeah, it was not great. Even with Dove being able to get some first picks, really just on that point A, not able to get it right away, not able to capitalize, right? Like, what was it, the first or second fight? Dove gets an early pick, and everything kind of falls apart. I think Crimzo actually makes some big plays, being able to take out Malthal and whatnot. But you've got to capitalize on those. And then I think as well, like if you're not getting value out of the Genji, you got to consider going to something else.
What's it going to be? I mean, I'll be honest with you.
We've seen them play the Tracer a bit.
But, I mean, yeah. It's tough, right? Against Baptiste,
Genji's typically been better always, like on King's Row, because of the high ground, right? Being able to access that high ground. So, like, you may feel like you need the Genji to be able to go up there and try and challenge and make those plays. So, Boston, we'll see what they decide to do on offense. Few interesting things they can pull out, but still some time. So, Paris on defense, pretty much standard from what we've seen thus far from teams.
Yeah. Paris here know that they really need to get off to a great start here defensively. I wonder, yeah, do we see Boston maybe try and like avoid the Zarya? What is Punk Winston? That would be a that would be quite a sight, I must say. Obviously, we saw Itzel for the most part on this team take that roll up. Punk though has shown he's more than up to the challenge though of demonstrating a wide and deep hero pool.
No,
Seeker on the Sojourn again.
Yeah. I think you just want that Zarya for like the second stage of the map as well. That if you can win this fight, if you're the Boston Uprising, and let's say, you know, keep Punk highly charged, you know, build up towards a grab, and, you know, have it for that second half, you're in a fantastic spot. I mean, that's a massive kill. I mean, the point should kind of just like crumble now, barring Paris pulling out like some insane, you know, wins here. But you know, once you lose that Baptiste, we talked about how big like the burst healing is, Immortality Field, losing the Baptiste at the start. It's almost like worst case, right?
Yeah. Seeker is having an incredible map. 64% charge shot accuracy on this Sojourn. That is mental. Dove only about half of that, just to put it in perspective for you. Very, very hard here to sort of deal with a deficit like that. That's just a gigantic DPS spike that Boston have access to and are leveraging it maliciously.
As now they have an eternity, it feels like, here with, you know, 5 minutes plus on the clock to get to that, you know, golden box of victory. And what do you decide to do here, right? You can just kind of like trade this damage out. You know, maybe you're just going to try and build up towards that grab. The slight advantage already.
Oh, Malthul! Victoria goes deep there, and he's into the backline. Crow, he just decides to give up on dealing with the Genji. Punk representing a far greater threat to him at the moment, but the Immortality Field thrown down by Paris, going to be removed here, and they are getting absolutely ruined.
Yeah, so we have a switch now off of the Genji, so I think it's just trying to get back, but I mean, that's like terrible to lose that fight in the way you just did. I mean, you lose, you know, both your DPS instantly pretty much, and then you just gonna have to give it up. And at the spot where the golden box of victory is, I mean, you're gonna have everything available here for the Boston Uprising, and you haven't even had good fights to build up anything of your own.
Seeker, he's the one I'm looking out for right now. Yeah. Hey, looking for those snitch, Matt, just those easy kills, and he's had plenty of them so far this map. Rakitak just impales himself upon that particle lance, and Victoria will take to the skies to deal with Luke Mino. That was a wash. Malthul will be cleaned off the point, and that's the map.
I was laughing at Seeker emoting on the payload as Malthul was trying to stall it.
Trying to kill him.
Right around him. Not even trying to kill him, but look, I think that game is, you know, the Boston Uprising being able to pick off players, you know, really Crimzo in that first point, and then the DPS early on their offensive attack, and really just snowball. I mean, had so many ultimates to use there. And I think you see, you know, in map 1, Dove got the better of Seeker in terms of that Sojourn battle, and that led to a Paris win. In the second map, it's a complete opposite, which leads to a Boston Uprising victory.
Yeah, pretty convincing stuff from Boston there, and they get a lot of value out of their composition. Shows us why they're probably feeling pretty comfortable in this particular metagame right now. And Paris are fundamentally not on the same level on King's Row, so they don't even think about high-level strategy. Paris now need to be able to approach these compositions from a place of confidence and believe they can win these fights, because right now that doesn't seem to be showing. Stick around, everybody. We have a tied series here at 1 apiece, but Boston definitely seem to have the edge. Kings Row sees the Boston Uprising really start to pull ahead in this matchup. We only really get to see about half of the map of the Paris Eternal are just brought to a screeching halt midway through the map on their attack, and then Boston, with what looked like the utmost ease, are able to match and beat that kind of progress, Matthew. Paris, again, really clutching it, trying to find ways to put real pressure on this Boston team, who seems to get to do whatever they like.
And you're just like, what happened with the Boston Uprising in like map number 1? Like, were they just like off a little bit? Was it a little bit of fluke, or like, are we in for like an actual like close like series? Because that's kind of what it looked like here at the start. That, you know, with the way Dove was playing today and the rest of the Paris Eternal, that this is one that could go the difference. Maybe they could even steal. But what we just saw on Kings Row was not exactly that. It was just really kind of like one-sided there from the Boston Uprising. And I think if you were the Paris Eternal, like, how can you get Malthus in positions to try and make plays without him being like extremely weak, almost to the point of death, like before he gets in those positions?
Probably worth also pointing out that this match so far has been decided by Sojourns being very powerful on the first couple of maps. First was Dove, a veritable highlight reel for Dove on that Busan map, and then Seeker's the one that really takes center stage in a big way. A lot of flashiness coming from that Sojourn play, but the sheer volume as well as of eliminations and damage done in general has also been quite a big factor. Paris, not going to change anything up here on defense.
And this may be a better map for Malthus on the Genji, because we were talking a little bit in the break, like maybe it's just kind of like the pathing, right? And, you know, just taking like loads of damage, whether it be from the Sojourn or the Baptiste on the opposite side before even getting in position to really make a high impact play, where there's a lot of open space here on this map, right? So a lot of different routes you could possibly use here is, let's see, Rakitak getting on the high ground, maybe in a position to boot these players down.
Okay, so
nice.
Paris
Quite nice.
Really want to play very close. The Zarya positioning here is nice. Rakitak will still need to respect what Boston can do here, as we already have the Victoria Genji drop to the cart, which will start moving. Rack, please. Okay, he's done well. Surfing off the off the rooftop, but he'll be healed up in no time. That's not an issue. Yeah, well, this again, take a fight close to the enemy spawn and guarantee yourself another one a little bit further down the track here, I guess, is Paris' plan, because I mean, they posture aggressively. None of that really manifests in their play, though. They get run over. Rakitak, though, getting involved, finding Crimzo is important.
Yeah, and I don't think they probably expected Punk to, like, you know, to Zarya jump and boost himself up to the high ground. Probably a lot of damage that they didn't expect coming through there. Up on that high ground area where Punk gets up there, he's, like, pretty charged, you know, 70, 80%, and he's able to take out the Genji rather fast. So Paris will get at least one more fight here before the payload would hit this second checkpoint. So we'll see if they're able to kind of like make it out and make a play before, as they've already used one bubble here. The Paris Eternal gonna have to wait a little bit here. Yeah, you see, even they force out the immortality field. The player's taking so much damage.
Well, just to keep Malthus alive, Matthew. He got a bubble as well, so it's not like he's not getting defensive, you know, utility. He's just getting blown up. Good focus from Boston to make sure that that Genji can't get the job done. Punk here has to respect Krawi, but Krawi is in between Punk and the rest of the Uprising and just gets shot in the back. Punk able to stay alive here, doing very well to juggle this aggression. Damn, that's a good look. The boy's on his home turf, my guy. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty clean there from Punk, as Crimzo will escort the payload in, take that A checkpoint, as Punk, he's pushed up, and that is a bit too far, as Paris, they get all that front spawn, and they push right out, and they're like, hey, we can't get bullied that bad, right? They end up taking out Punk, so he actually loses all that energy, which is quite big.
A little frustrating there to lose that as Punk, but there's a Graviton surge here. Again, getting Paris off the high ground is kind of annoying in this position. Krawi, I like this, all right? Start the fight off here on the right foot, come forward. They've lost Dove somehow, though. Just shouldn't be happening. Krawi is the one that grabs. He stays alive to the sound barrier, going to keep him in the fight, and here's Malthus. Feels like he's just joined us now in the land of the living. Can't say the same for his two victims as he finds both the Zarya and the Genji.
Yeah, Yeah, he's able to get 2 with that blade. A lot used there, though, by the Paris Eternal, man. Ant Matrix, Beat, Grab, Blade. I mean, Boston, they're going to come back. I mean, they're going to have, you're not even going to have to use everything here. I mean, they have no beat. You think, hey, we can get even if it's 1 here with a grab, like, do we even need to invest anything else?
Punk double bubbling himself here as he's definitely the main target for the Paris Eternal.
And they don't have to invest anything else into this fight. They can hold on to that blade. They can hold on to the Ant Matrix. In Paris, because the fights end so fast, there's no opportunity for them to even like build up towards anything, right? So you're looking at an opportunity where Boston, they can actually kind of snowball through this second part of the map.
Yeah, 2 fights with ult advantage seems pretty sweet for the Uprising, and that might be all they need to actually get into this last phase of the map here. Saw how far forward Punk wanted to push. The high ground absolutely under control of the Uprising here. Paris have to move through a choke. Oh, they're not. They're not coming out of that room. They're going to have to take to the low ground here and try and wrap around, but they're still going to be within Seeker's purview. Yep, Balthul, well, eats that one. He says, okay, I guess I'll just meet my maker. No worries. And Victoria getting this sushi chef on here.
And that's kind of the snowball, right? You use so many ultimates there for that first defense. Maybe they felt they need to because they kind of felt everything kind of like falling apart and they needed to stop, but you end up losing 2 fights relatively easily there, and now they get the second checkpoint as they march down the map.
And again, now what they're running up against. Okay, Paris are starting to build up some of those ultimates, but still nothing that a well-placed Immortality field can't interrupt. Krawi needed the sound barrier of Rack Attack there, I think, to sort of allow the Eternal to win that previous fight, plus Mouthful's Blade, so this will buy the Eternal some time, but it's not going to translate into a fight win. It's not going to translate into more free ult charge.
Yeah, so just kind of like delays a little bit here. That Ant Matrix up on the high ground, but I mean, if you're the Boston Uprising, what do you do here? I mean, you're going to have another grab here, so Punk, because you're actually able to put down so much damage and live a little bit longer in these fights, you're going to have another grab here before Paris gets one. And you have this beat to use if you want to just get aggressive and just kind of like run them down with sound barrier.
Pretty patient stuff here from Punk. He doesn't want to give up this high ground too easily. In fact, he'd rather snarl Krawi up inside this grab. Sound barrier comes down and it's not enough. Oh, that's got to feel terrible for Rack Attack. He still loses the majority of his team to that grab on the high ground.
And there's a part of me that thinks that they probably didn't have grab again. Because you just saw the grab, there's like that one fight, like grab takes a little bit to build up.
Yeah.
But Punk has been so charged, and they've been able to keep him alive throughout all of this. You're gonna have that grab rather fast. And now when Paris Eternal comes back, right, you have a grab, you'll be able to kind of counter that with the sound barrier. And with the way Seeker's shooting, maybe sitting up on the high ground, just 1 shot away from really taking the game over.
2 minutes and 3 on the clock here, but there's Dove, finally! Feels like he's gone completely quiet since that first map. But getting Crimzo, it's about the best kill we could hope for there, Matt.
And you can hold on to the grab, right? So I think actually Dove, like regardless, even with the maps they've lost, I thought he's actually played pretty well today. I know even on King's Row, right? He was getting some first picks, just not able to convert them into anything. As now Paris, a minute and 30 on the clock, still with the blade, still with the grab. You're in a much better shot to hold now.
How do you make use of this, I wonder? Okay, so grab here from Krawi, Immortality field. There's Dub, but there's Seeker. Okay, both Genji's down, and that's nasty! Oh. He shuts down the Genji and then puts one through Luke Mino's head. What a disgusting showing from Seeker here. Oh yeah, they're getting home well and truly. What a power play from Boston.
Yeah, and that blade actually could have been a difference maker, right? He had an opportunity to get right onto the supports in the back line. It was after the beat. But man, just hits another shot. Seeker really starting to... his map 1 was not good. I think Dove definitely got the better of him. But since then, I mean, Seeker's been on fire.
What a sequence. Shutting down the Genji Blade and then just one-shotting the Baptiste. It's like the 2 most high-priority targets in that fight, especially given the ultimates. Damn, that's dirty. Good looks for Boston, getting the map done. Job not finished out in the chat there, okay. These 2 teams, obviously, again, trying to enjoy themselves a little bit. Boston, obviously, looking ahead to their first play-in matchup against a rather frightening-looking Florida Mayhem. And Paris here wanting to cap their season off by doubling their wins. So far, though, a little bit lackluster here, especially in Malthus just had some poor luck, I think. I mean, just getting... What do you want to, what do you want to say about dying to that railgun? I mean, I just don't have it in me to blame Malthus for that in the slightest.
And also, like, yeah, Punk has been so charged up the entire time, and obviously can't deflect that. What is he going to do? Play Genji at range? He needs to go in, try and make something happen. It's a tough spot to be in.
Okay, interesting if we get this from Paris here. I wonder why Dove values the Ashe over the Sojourn, though.
This may be just to come out of the spawn here with, like, the Ashe with the Mercy pocket.
Well, that's a missed opportunity.
Damage down, yeah.
That Dynamite goes off and no one's there to be
the Dynamite
by
on the high ground, right, would have at least, you know, gotten one bubble out, maybe the regenerative burst, right? You could have gotten some of the cooldowns out, and maybe you could have attacked that, but not able to connect. Now you're in this kind of like awkward dance here.
Victoria is the one that will contest here, so you'll need bubbles. Losing Crimzo to Dove, though, means that this spawn camp is going to go about as well for Boston as it did for Paris. Maybe worse.
Yeah. I mean, it actually went probably better for Paris. Lasted a little bit longer. It's, you know, Dove opened things up with a pick. Is that time they, you know, Malthus ends up living. They give him the Zarya bubble. He gets to the high ground, gets out with his life as Victoria trying to contest the payload. It was in a really tough spot.
Someone had to do it, though. No point standing out there in the high ground if the cart just sails on by you. Victoria challenging Malthus here, who is in trouble. Gets a bubble, though, from Krawi. Good awareness, but Punk has the high ground control, and Malthus can't escape. Good work by Crimzo, weaving in those healing grenades with the shots.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do to try and, you know, you give the Genji the Zarya bubble. You know, you got an immortality field if necessary, right? But it's only so much you can do to try and keep him up, especially as the Zarya starts to chase down with that extra damage. As you know, Punk with a bubble takes a few shots there and then just backs up.
And Malthus, he dashes. He's at low health. He gets a bubble, but still, the fact that he can't get away there is pretty scary. Genji on the back foot. Doesn't feel fun to play at all. And Victoria's constantly challenging Malthus, saying, all right, I'm gonna dash through you. I'm gonna try and hit you with some shurikens, make it hard for you to do your job. Krawi disintegrates there. 2 Amp matrices go up, but one a little bit better position than the other, I'd say.
I mean, you have that high ground advantage, right? I mean, it's just kind of like the defensive nature of the map. I mean, you would love to be able to use it more on the high ground rather than that, you know, kind of blind corner you have to turn.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Really hard for Paris to find a way to pin Boston down inside the range of the Amp Matrix. So, 1 minute, 37 seconds left here. And Paris no closer to really finding an answer. Outside of Dove finding a miracle. Pick here, this could be rough. Krawi, how many bubbles you got, sir? All right, one down. Dove removed by Victoria before the sound barrier comes in for rack attack. That's so demoralizing. Again, it's another beat that can't quite come in time to save one of his teammates. The blades come out, Malthus finds one without having to give up his life, but Victoria is able to outdo him in that regard. And Boston still feet firmly planted on this defensive endeavor.
But you have an opportunity here for the Paris Eternal. You're going to have your Graviton Surger walking in there. They have nothing to use to defend against this. Really just the immortality field at that point, which you think you're able to take that out. Punk's probably going to save some bubbles to be able to live on through it. So, you know, potentially an opportunity here for the Paris Eternal to take checkpoint A.
Here's the man of the moment, Krawi. Can he make the difference? He tries to circumvent Punk and, okay, grab comes in. Immortality field removed instantly. That's lovely from Paris. Great execution. The card not moving through that fight though, so there might be a chance for Boston to rush and get here in time.
So what I like there is that Paris uses the speed boost. They get right up in Punk's grill, and they basically force him to use those Zarya bubbles before the grab comes down, and they know they have nothing else to live through it. But you lose Krawi at the end. He's got to switch to D.Va to come back, and you're going to have another fight.
Amp Matrix there. Little hard to LOS, but Victoria, no fear. Dove gets him with a deflect, if I'm not mistaken now. The Immortality Field going to help keep him up. It's still dicey stuff, though. Look how low the Eternal are. They're able to get rid of Crimzo, though. But Seeker and Victoria strike back just as quickly. And without rack attack, Paris are running out of options. 2 versus 2 on the cart now. Victoria into the deflect. Krawi desuited, can't do too much, and Malthal on his own. Last Samurai. And it's not enough. The Boston Uprising put Paris in that red dirt.
Oh, it's no, if you have Krawi alive there, where he ends up dying really at the end of that, last second fight, so to speak, and he has to come back on the D.Va. If he lives on that Zarya there, you probably walk that in, and we're still playing that game. But that last exit kill just so impactful.
17 final blows for 5 deaths for Punk in that map, and 16 for Victoria. Really good showing from Boston, and now it's the Zarya that takes the 4. Another great look. And for Paris Eternal, again, it's much the same woes they've suffered so far. When they get the execution right, at the end of that round, the cart's not close enough to the checkpoint for them to convert that into a take, and winning multiple fights in a row is something Paris are just not able to do so far this series. Boston Uprising looking to put the finishing touches on this one, as Paris will continue to tread water and search for an answer. Want to go to the grand finals? Well, submit a duet or stitch with our content to enter the OWL TikTok sweepstakes for a chance to be there. Head to our website or visit the Overwatch League TikTok for more info. You know what that is, Matt?
TikTok, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, Bren's got one. I know a bunch of people got one. I don't have one, but I hear it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty lit. Many hours of my day just get
I
sacrificed.
can't do
to that
more
app.
social media. I am social media'd.
What do you mean? You don't do any
I'm
social
at
media.
the limit of my
All you do
social
is tweet
media
about the New
consumption.
York Giants. That is the only thing you do. What do you mean?
No.
No more. So,
no
God.
more.
all right, you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Matt has done his dash for the social media. Just unfollow him and be done with it. But check that out if you want a chance to beat the grand finals.
Don't do that.
Man, I mean, international LAN event. That's what I'm talking about, baby. I'm looking forward to that. We'll, again, to follow off of the success we've had at some awesome live events this year. Great to move away from domestic and have everyone there. Fingers crossed now as we head into this match. Of course, 3 maps are down. And maybe the spirits of the Eternal are as well, because they really struggled to find a rhythm over the last 2 maps.
Bro, like, yeah, where is the map 1 Paris Eternal? Like, they looked really solid. I think it's like once the game is like sped up a bit, I think that's when things fell apart. Because remember how we were talking about like how slow that map 1 was, right?
Yeah.
It was a lot of like, posturing, kind of like exchanging some long range shots, not a lot of like kills, like really just like a game of positioning where I think as soon as we kind of got past that and it's like, all right, everybody moving at 1,000 miles an hour, that's when things have fallen apart for Paris. Is not great for them. We're going into push. I mean, non-stop action push.
Yeah, maybe a chance for Paris to find their footing a little bit more. Maybe in terms of that Oldham economy, it's still going to be a persistent factor like it is on sort of escort maps in general. I bring this up because Paris looked really solid on control. That was where I really liked the looks from them, just trying to take the fight constantly to Boston. They'll have opportunities to do that now here as well, but Boston looking much more coordinated. They're getting a lot more success out of Victoria on the Genji as well, so if we get that again, like I'm definitely backing Victoria if I had to choose a Genji who's having higher impact in this particular
but you don't
matchup.
need the Genji on this map. So if you don't want to play the Genji, you don't have to here. If you're Paris, you can actually play that Tracer, which I think we've seen better stuff from Mulple when he's playing the Tracer. So looks to be what he's kind of hovering here from the onset. And I wonder if Boston has an idea on that because coming out with the 76 in the Sojourn, it's a bit better of a comp against the Tracer versus like, playing this like almost like double. Sojourn's not really hit scan, but kind of like occupies that space. But playing 2 of those against a Genji, like that's typically where the Genji would thrive.
All right, neutral fight here. Seeker strikes first though, and he finds again the perfect bloody target. Victoria's able to play again an off angle here, and it's just too much for Paris. They just crumble under this kind of pressure.
Yeah, you lose the BAP, and then that allows the Soldier to take a big off angle. You don't have that burst healing. You're just going to get wilted down. Red eventually is see now. So the bot starts to move the barrier closer towards the checkpoint.
Just nailing the play-by-play there. I love that.
Yeah,
Hey, don't forget.
I was doing it, right?
Yeah, that's how we do it. I'm going to say as well, like Victoria are obviously typically the hit scan player on this team alongside Valentine, so this is like a really natural move for him.
I mean, the immortality feels so far away. I mean, how are they supposed to live through that?
I don't know what the idea was supposed to be there, Matt. I'll be honest with you. Dove able to find Victoria, though. Unfortunately, that's not going to stop the Boston Uprising here. That will be annoying, though, losing control of the bot here. But as the fight breaks down, I think it was like a 3 versus 1 at the end. So a little annoying, but Boston will be able to extend that lead, and they're already pretty close to the checkpoint. So Paris definitely need to get something going now. Victoria's legs are going to get him back into the fight pretty darn quickly.
And I mean, Crawley getting like doubled up here in terms of grab, right? I mean, 50%, Punk's already got it. It looked like they wanted to save it, but they're going to have to use it.
Ooh, a lot going on there. Mouthful actually able to get Seeker with the pulse bomb. I think he missed it, but still got what he came for. No checkpoint picked up there by
Victoria's
Boston.
Gonna visor this?
And he's getting value. He's found 2 already. Dove has to hide the bot. And they got the checkpoint off the back of that tac visor.
Dude.
You've got to be kidding me, dude.
It's a 2v3 at that point, right? Because I think like Malthal's still alive. It's just Victoria and Crimzo. Crimzo's like behind him by where the Mega Health Pack is. And I was shocked they invested that in, because I mean, that looked like a fight that was definitely going to be, you know, lost. As the Seeker here's going to be an overclock. It's going to be Sound Barrier in response here for the Paris Eternal, as both of these teams want to continue the fight.
Seeker is hitting so many rails here, Matt, that Sound Barrier just gets stripped away pretty quickly. Both teams end up using it, though, to be fair, but Boston see no reason to stop trying to push here. Malthul's done a good job so far this map, I think, of getting those picks. First the Pulse Bomb, now that elimination on Victoria. But it's a big, big, big deficit that the Paris Eternal are staring down now with the loss of that checkpoint early.
Yeah, Boston just ends up kind of throwing bodies there at the end, just burning some clock. As you know, 57%, not even halfway through the game yet. Pretty good first initial push there from the Boston Uprising, as Victoria trying to take this off angle here. Oh, nice grab use.
Immortality Field, though, gets some value and allows for a trade. How is Dove close enough? I guess he must have slid into the fight to try and find an extra kill, and ends up getting himself picked off. Not great. A grab that results in a 1-for-1 trade. Not what Paris are looking for. And Matrix is thrown up. Luke Minos is down already here, or his Immortality Field, excuse me. Seeker picks that off. And guess where the bot's headed, Matt? Back in the direction of Paris' spawn.
Yeah, not the direction they would like. Especially now, because you know, Boston, they win that fight for relatively free almost, as you know, you'll have your grab and your overclock yet again, as getting very close once they get this checkpoint. I think that you lose this fight for Paris, you're in a spot where you may end up giving up the entire map.
Well, Crowie's bought the farm already. Punk just rides straight up on him there. Seeker's been hitting so many of these. Another one. Dove gets eliminated very easily, and Lucamino is nothing but a crater.
And there's nothing that you can do about that. I mean, just kind of going back to your spawn, the Sojourn just comes flying around the corner, takes you out. Here's what's going to be deadly, though. I mean, you're going to have this Tac Visor, lots of open space here. They're going to have to play in that open space to contest the bot. You're really looking at Dove to hit like one of those big railgun shots with an overclock to shut it all down.
Victoria coming back a little bit here. Healed up by the Binding Fielder. Now it's time to come with the Tac Visor. This is going to force out that Sound Barrier. Pretty good trade, I think, if you're the Boston Uprising. Especially with Seeker getting rid of Crowie anyway. So many times, Sound Barrier being dropped and not allowing Paris to have an outright fight win. This is going to be the case again. Crimzo's picked off Dove. Malthul again putting in a really gutsy effort here, but again he finds himself well behind the 8 ball in numbers.
And the biggest thing for me is you see how fast the Paris Eternal, how fast the Boston Uprising are able to deal with Crowie, right, and get him out of these fights. And Punk, with the help of the support, able to just live forever, it seems like. Never fighting without their Zarya. Now they back up a little bit. Victoria will come back on the Genji here. Just trying to get back in the fight a little bit faster. They'll give up some space so they can set up another fight.
And Matrix here. Boston, no interest in giving up any ground. No interest in going easy on the Eternal whatsoever. Another Malthul Pulse Bomb that finds its mark, though. Another good sign from him. Crimzo having to reload here. This is going to be the Uprising back away. They've only got 3 players to work with, and that Genji switch from Victoria hasn't yet found any value.
No, I mean, it was just one fight, and I think really just the Genji to get back fast. I don't think it was like because he was hovering the Reaper there for a second, and then decided to go with Genji. So high ground control here from the Boston Uprising. Paris, and I like this from Boston because it's going to force Paris to, I was going to say, to invest to try and actually get the fight going in their direction. So they end up using the grab just to solo grab Punk.
Whatever keeps the Eternal in fighting shape here. Front spawn will be shut down from the Boston Uprising, and Paris able to turn a grab this time at least into a fight win. In the past, it's not been a guarantee that Crowie's been able to secure a victory for his team with that ultimate. Punk.
And once you get the checkpoint, Mitch, it's actually the scariest part for the opposing team, because at this point, Paris is forced to pretty much, with the time on the clock and where they are in terms of the game, dump everything into like every fight almost. And Boston does not have to do that at all. You lose one of those, this bot's going to go so fast in the other direction, and they'll most likely have an ultimate advantage. But that's how you're looking and see like a lot of teams complete maps at this stage in the game.
Victoria dies so early in that fight, again unsuccessful. This is what Paris are looking for. This is going to secure them the checkpoint now. being able to win a couple of these fights in a row. So big. Victoria's getting close to that blade, but he's had some really unsuccessful engagements. Both teams able.
This is doable for Paris. I mean, Amp Matrix here coming up, overclock as well. And you're just going to kind of like maybe wait and bait them because you see Boston, they're going to be able to control this high ground. Now that you've got the checkpoint, do you back up a little bit, try and get a good use of that Amp Matrix? It looked like Maltho coming around on a little bit of a flank with that pulse bomb yet again. He's hit a few of those.
Here goes Victoria. It's about time he made something happen on this pick, and the blade is good so far. Lukemino gets a closer shave than he otherwise would have liked. And now to get the pendulum swinging back in the other direction.
Yeah, as they ended up using everything there, Paris, and they kind of needed to, especially now under 2 minutes. They'll come back, they'll have a grab here for potentially like kind of their final defensive fight, you would think. They're gonna have to go pretty fast here because like you're running out of time. The time you're wasting here, you're allowing Punk to end up building up towards his grab. Benefit for them is they know that there's no sound barrier on the other side, so Crowley's gonna be able to use this grab pretty liberally, right? Like kind of using it wherever.
You lose Maltho.
Yeah, not a great way to start the fight off. Immortality Field, Krabi spends so much time being the literal only person trying to remove that. And yeah, all that DPS spent on the drone can't be used on Punk, who's sat in the grab, smiling from ear to ear. The body's still going to move, and Gotti moves fast now, all the way up this hill. It's going to be burning rubber.
Yeah, and Lukemino, you know, you're able to get the kill on that Victoria, but you're going to lose Maltho as well as 2 players go down here right at the end as Boston Uprising very close to completing the map.
There are no key ultimates here for Boston, but they're in a pretty solid position regardless. Less than a minute left, and Boston say, fine, we'll let you have it. We'll let you come down the hill, and we'll meet you at the bottom.
This would be a comeback for the ages here. 40 seconds to go. They've doubled the amount of progress. In terms of the meters, there's a Seeker right around the corner with a headshot.
That's not a gap, that's a Grand Canyon from Seeker. Krabi getting picked off there as well. Sound barrier for 3. It's a very, very, very sad beat to be dropping. Maltho pressuring Crimzo here, and oh, brother. No good. Now bot.
Sound barrier available here for Boston 2 to complete the map.
All right, around the corner, Krabi waits. He does not want to let this bot end the map. Immortality Field thrown down. Again, Mouthful, credit to him coming out of the spawn, still with that same hunger. But he's going to be dueling here. Seeker is
emoting directly next to him. All right, he gets him though.
Okay. Yep. And here's a grab that's going to catch Rack Attack, and the barricade is going to be pushing overtime. May have gone down before this has a chance to finish the map, but the result is set in stone. And so the Paris Eternal end their season. Just the one win to their name as the Boston Uprising clamber over them on their own quest for glory as they set themselves up with a fated matchup against the Florida Mayhem in our play-ins.
As right after that first map, it was all Boston. Kind of Paris fell apart, but I thought you saw some good play from Dove today. From the Paris Eternal. I think Crowley, when, you know, I mean, look, it's really difficult. I mean, I think Boston doing a great job of focusing him down, you know, constantly losing supports early on. I thought he, you know, when they put him in the right positions, I actually thought he can kind of go toe-to-toe with Punk in situations. But just Boston, as you saw today, just display, I mean, just on another level in the Paris Eternal.
Yeah, really impressed with Seeker's play. And now I understand why maybe Victoria is not the designated Sojourn player for this Boston Uprising team. And hey, he's able to turn around and show us Genji on quite a few of those mats and find good results. The Soldier also looked really solid on New Queen Street. Maybe a little bit less so, I think, on Busan, as that was where Dove was really able to come alive here. These teams, you can really see how they rise and fall on the momentum generated by some of those star players, right? Yeah. I think that Boston, they're looking down the barrel of a Sojourn matchup in their next match, which is not going to be maybe so easy to overcome. Really curious to see just how far this team can go with what they have right now. Obviously, on the Paris Eternal side, that is the end of their season. I want to extend my thanks to the whole organization, the players, for all their hard work so far. It's been a treat to have them and see them as they've tried to grow and, you know, dealt with quite some serious challenges over the course of the season. True. And obviously, the name Paris being retired now as they as they make a relocation. But let's talk about the Boston Uprising. Let's talk about their player of the match here, Matthew. Tough one to choose. I think a lot of players really able to stand up here. Really enjoyed Seeker's play. But as it happens, we're landing on Punk here for your player of the match. Really solid series throughout. Still the go-to guy for the Boston Uprising at the tank role.
I mean, look, they're able to keep him alive for so long. He does an excellent job kind of managing the Zarya bubbles, whether it be for him or to help those supports. And I thought really, though, kind of it starts with Punk and really kind of Crimzo as well, where the Batista perfect time of the immortality fields, the healing able to keep Punk alive, but just the amount of damage he's able to put out. And you saw it constantly when Malta trying to get away. I mean, he's getting beamed down by like a 90 energy Zarya, and he's already at half health. Like, what do you expect from the guy? I mean, just a really strong Zarya play from Punk. And I think if Boston's going to make it out of the play-ins, I think you're going to need to see this type of performance again against even tougher competition.
Yeah, again, they'll spend some time dwelling on the satisfaction of a win here, but they have to look ahead. 12 final blows per 10, by the way, pretty insane. I think a lot of that generated probably on Junkertown, rather, where Punk ends up with like 17, I think, over the course of the series, on the map, rather.
Even the average energy is pretty high, right? 52%, it's pretty strong in terms of, being able to just, I mean, if that's the average, right, you're kind of sitting at above that for a good portion of the games, right? So that's going to say you see him, he's able to put down so much damage there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Boston Uprising, half an eyebrow still raised for this team, and there are some serious hurdles that they have to clear if they even want to be a part of the playoffs here at the Overwatch League. But at least they have a path to potential glory. Yeah. They know what they need to work on. We want to see how they're able to make adaptations in the meantime. We're going to head to a break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, of course, we've still got one more game left for the regular season, so don't go too far. This is your final day of Countdown Cup qualifiers here at the Overwatch League.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to Game Break, everybody. I'm here with Faith from Boston Uprising after coming from a 3-1 victory against the Paris Eternal. Faith, congratulations on the win. Now, I do have to ask, you guys seemed really dominant throughout the whole match, other than the first map on Busan. So I want to ask you, what sort of adjustments did you guys make after losing Busan and going into Kings Row? 자, 오늘 일단 승리 너무나 축하드리고요. 페이트 선수. 일단 오늘 경기 굉장히 전체적으로 봤을 때 보스턴이 되게 압도적인 어떤 모습을 많이 보여준 것 같은데 부산에서만 살짝 좀 이제 힘들어하시는 모습이 좀 보였던 것 같아요. 이제 부산을 지고 나서 이제 왕의 길로 들어가면서 좀 팀적으로 어떤 조정을 하셨나요?
일단 부산이 첫 맵이기도 했고 그래서 아직 손이 덜 풀린 것 같다. 실수만 좀 줄여보자라는 식으로 충분히 할만하니까 실수만 좀 줄이고 하자라는 식으로 이야기를 하고 들어갔던 것 같아요.
All right. For Busan, I think we lost that match specifically because it was the first map of our match today, and not only that, I don't think we were warmed up enough. So going into Kings Row, what we talked about mostly was lessening our mistakes, trying to focus a lot more on the game and try to make as less mistakes as possible. And I think that's how we got the win against Paris Eternal today. All right. My second question for you is also, going into next week, we are going into the play-in, sorry. And your first opponent for the play-in is going to be the Florida Mayhem. I want to get your thoughts on it. How confident are you going into that matchup against the Florida Mayhem? 자, 두 번째 질문으로는 이제 오늘로 정규 시즌이 이제 끝나고 이제 다음 주부터는 플레이인 경기들이 시작이 될 텐데요. 보스턴의 첫 상대가 플로리다 메이햄이라고 합니다. 그 경기에 대해서 좀 어떻게 생각을 하시나요? 좀 이제 플로리다 상대로 좀 이길 수 있다는 좀 자신감이 있으신가요?
네, 이제 플로리다는 이번 스테이지에서 한번 이겨보기도 했고 그리고 또 같은 메타이기 때문에 다시 붙어도 이길 수 있을 것 같아요.
Right. Definitely, I do feel like we're gonna win. We could defeat the Florida Mayhem just because we won against them this stage once already, and not only that, we are going to be playing on the same meta. So I'm pretty confident in our matchup against the Florida Mayhem in the play-ins. All right, Faith, that is it for the interview. Thank you so much for your time, and again, big congratulations on the win. 자, 이걸로 인터뷰 마치도록 하겠습니다. 페이트 선수 너무나 감사드립니다. Thank you.
감사합니다. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faith. Congratulations to the Boston Uprising. And Costa just couldn't wait to get back into frame.
That was a sexy elbow. Yeah, I saw skin right next to my face, and I was like, "What is that?"
I was just like, just doing some adjustments over here, and then all of a sudden I look at the camera, I'm like, oh.
The best part was the look that Reinforce gave me. He's just like, really?
We got the checkmate pose. Now we have the Costa pose with the elbows just leaning into other people.
But technically, that's the baby bay, right?
Yeah, that's the other baby.
That's remember?
That's a throwback.
That is
Wow.
Pose, yeah.
Well, we're old.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is HS of. Anyway, let's take a look at how that match went down. Boston Uprising came out on top, but not without Paris putting up a little bit of a fight, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, at the first we were like, is Paris going to do it? Because, this new roster hasn't really found too much success. They haven't been able to win a match. So we were hoping that this would be their final match, go out with a bang. Unfortunately, after this first map, they made the adjustments. They're playing a little bit faster, really reacting to the way the Paris Eternal are playing. And it kind of fell away from the Paris Eternal. And this has been a consistent theme throughout the season. So obviously it's been difficult for them to come in on such short notice, be able to play against the best of the best in a very new game with Overwatch 2 and 5v5. So, hopefully we get to see a bunch of these players again next year and they can hopefully get on a better performance. But Boston Uprising looking as dominant as ever going into the plane.
Yeah, did Faith say in the interview that it was the first map of the day, the first one?
The first map. I mean, it's the first map of the match.
Boston, book a warm-up scrim. what are we doing? I don't know if that was the exact answer, so I don't wanna, make a fact.
It sounded like it.
It sounded like that. If that is the case.
Translation.
Yes, no, it was. Yes.
Oh, I don't want to blame Danny either if it's wrong, but I don't know. Anyway, that's just a good factual statement, like book a warm-up scrim. I don't care if they did or didn't. In any case, come on. Yeah, they will for play-ins. Definitely. Yeah, I'm just joking. Yeah, but for the Paris Eternal, I mean, this is a bit of a closure of their chapter. You know, they're going to stay the same franchise. They're just going to change their name essentially to Las Vegas, right? But still, it's the Paris Eternal. They were brought into the league in 2019, and they came out with their European roster, right? They had Ben Best, Cruz was on their roster soon. You know, transferred from LA Valiant to Paris Eternal, one of the crowd's favorite player in the Blizzard Arena. So a lot of great moments from this team. Summer Showdown 2020 with Sparkle in the mixed for example. Remember Fielder? He was like all around in Korea when they won that tournament. You know, somebody Seeker. Stop
emoting at the end of the game.
But yeah, this is going to be their last time this franchise competes as Paris Eternal, and they brought a lot of joy. They had some homestands even back in the day with the French audience, stuff like that, right? So some good times for this franchise too.
Absolutely. It was 5 years, I guess, of.
Is it?
No, wait, it wasn't 5 years. 4 years. I swear I can count.
Was it 3? 4?
Four
seasons.
4
seasons.
2021, 2022.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Finger counting.
We get it. Yeah, so, but that's 4 years. That's not nothing. So that is an end of an era. So I bet that must be a quite emotional moment now, actually, for a lot of Paris Eternal fans, for a lot of the players. Maybe not the new additions, because they may or may not have been as attached to the name as some of the older ones. But yeah, still, that was the last showing for this season for the Paris Eternal, and we want to thank them so much for all the entertainment throughout all those days. All those hours we got to watch them play it out, and I hope to see more of the newest additions from that team as well, maybe in the next season. But for now, Boston Uprising still have a fighting chance, and I'm going to be very interested to see how far they can take it in the play-ins, which start next week. For now, though, we're going to preview our next and the last match the regular season of the Overwatch League 2022, which is crazy, and that one is going to be battled out between the Houston Outlaws and the Toronto Defiant. Now, Costa, you brave little man, you did pick the Toronto Defiant. You didn't want to defend it. I'm still going to make you, though, because we have a minute to fill.
They're just a really long team, and I really respect that about them. You know, really
sometimes they just do be long. What can you do?
Just a really, coming off of that, third at their own homestand. I'm still into the hopium a little bit. Houston Outlaws, as I said in the pre-show, maybe they're not putting their best foot forward. This match really has no implications on the rest of the season, while Toronto Defiant are going to be fighting for their lives next weekend in this meta. So I think they have a lot more to play for, so I'm just hoping that will get them across the line in this matchup.
I actually heard that the reason that Costa predicted Toronto Defiant was because back when we were in the Blizzard Arena, Dante cut in front of Costa in the catering line once.
Did he really?
I hate Dante.
Whoa.
We're feuding. It's crazy right now.
Yeah.
Dante, I will see you in Anaheim.
Yeah, and he'll cut in front of the line.
Yeah.
Yes. He got a fast pass for that catering line. You better watch out. And now we are excited to get this last match on the road. And for all the action, we once more hand it over to Matt and Mitch.
Thank you very much, Zoe. Yeah, it's been a pretty amazing season so far. I think we had the first match of the season, Matt, so being able to top it off here with the last one feels pretty good. Thanks for joining us, of course, ladies and gentlemen, for two teams with huge aspirations in the postseason. The Outlaws are already locked. They're in a pretty decent spot. They don't have to compete in the play-ins. The Defiant, a team that we really thought was just going to completely exceed expectations when we saw them at their home event, have had a bit of a rockier time now through this Countdown Cup, and as a result, they'll be in the play-ins.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they have a very talented roster. You think they have a good shot in the play-ins. I think you probably talked to some of the people around Toronto Defiant. They probably thought they were going to be in that top 6, like locked one of those spots, right? They thought they acquired enough talent to probably break in there, and I think on paper they did. I know Hotba, I think, has been a great addition since he's like really taken over the tank role, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it, Matt. You never looked better, I must say. The wind has changed on you. Here we go. Here's your Houston Outlaws team. Now, if you poke around the stats a little bit, don't do it if you're a Paris Eternal fan, but, I had a little bit of a poke around, and Pelican still holds the record for the highest amount of damage per 10 out of anybody with 500 minutes plus played. So that's a big deal, and he's going to look to continue to do that here in this kind of matchup. We were really high on this team after what they were able to do to the Dallas Fuel at their home event. again, there was a lot of intangibles surrounding a game like that. And, it definitely looks like the Outlaws were able to make the most of that environment and channel that adversarial nature into a victory. Creative, that swap their Iris is, again, one of those trades that has ended up being benefiting both squads. I think Creative's been a huge impact player. Lastro has had the opportunity to be able to move over and play a bit more of that flex support. There's a good chance, though, that if the Outlaws are following suit with the rest of the teams in the Overwatch League, we're going to go see him back towards that Lucio and allow Creative to pilot the Baptiste, although either player, in theory, could really be a solid force on that particular pick. Merritt really impressed me. He blew my mind, honestly, when we were over in Dallas for that particular matchup. Again, continuing to show levels of consistency that maybe weren't expected from someone really being shuttled into the Overwatch League as rapidly as he was, but he is working fantastically alongside Pelican. And Dante showing us that he moves over to the Xayah and just looks really, really good. Statistically, both Dante and Hotba pretty even on the statistic numbers, right? So damage-wise, Dante has a slight lead in damage per 10. Final blows, Dante is 8.9 final blows per 10 on the Xayah, which is really significant. It's definitely on the higher end of the scale. I would say maybe less defensive, and you saw the kind of pressure he was able to put someone like a Hanbin under, someone who was starting to use these panic grabs left, right, and center in that game between Houston and Dallas. Let's move across to the other side now and have a look at your Toronto Defiant, a team who, again, seem destined to try and maintain perfect balance in all things, and that extends to their win and loss record. Right now, though, it's an odd week for them. They're at 11-12. But this team, again, a lot of players that can really start to take the game over. Finale, big impact players since coming in. It's a little interesting, I guess, that we don't see, although when a lot of teams are trying to field Genji players, Finale we knew generally as more of a tracer aficionado, but coming alongside Hisu here, he's looked very, very good being rotated back into this lineup. And not a whisper about Muse, since Hotba has come in here and he's in the perfect meta to show his particular skill set, of course, and that is primarily that Xayah play. Chorong and Twilight, we've sung their praises on multiple occasions here. But again, like as it's sort of been talked about, I think, Toronto are dealing with some sickness at the moment, so a couple of their players still on the mend here, and that can definitely affect you when you're going into games like this. I think Scott pointed it out on the desk. No huge implications in terms of the postseason. Matt, welcome back here. We're talking Toronto Defiant.
Talk about the Defiant so bad that my entire computer just exploded here, and now I get the opportunity to. But look, opportunity to get to 12-12, right? That would be the definition. No, that does kind of calls the mid. I actually think the Toronto Defiant are better than that, but that might just be me. I actually kind of like this roster a lot. That I think in the playoffs they're a pretty scary team, but in this matchup, I think for me, I don't know what you were saying because I was gone.
What's the difference to when you're here? Carry on.
I mean, that's actually true, to be fair. At least I kind of listen to a little bit of what you say, like sometimes, like not a ton. But I think it's a little bit of a toss-up, right? Because it's like, what, the Outlaws, they've already kind of like secured their spot. Like Toronto, we know where they're going to be. Do you want to get to 12-12? Just kind of say you did it for the Outlaws, like just trying to give yourself a little bit of momentum.
You've said nothing of substance since you came.
I mean, what is going on with this match, though? I mean, every match. Listen, Mitch, every match matters, okay? Right? This match matters because one team is going to get a win. And another team is going to get a loss off of this one.
I can't believe you're getting paid for this.
There's going to be a team that's going to win this match, Mitch, and there's going to be a team that's going to lose it, all right?
Oh, God. Oh, help. Okay. Yeah, look, the Toronto Defiant, you're right, though. They're looking forward to this matchup with the Washington Justice, who are kind of scary to go up against in the postseason, right? Teams don't like sort of picking them unless you're kind of Dallas, and Dallas regretted that decision pretty sorely, I think, over in Toronto, against that Justice squad. So both of these teams, what links them together is they both got absolutely wrecked by the Florida Mayhem this week. 3-1 and 3-0 respectively here. So both teams are looking to bounce back. And again, like you mentioned, Matt, that's basically the the extent of the implications in this head-to-head.
I think Toronto has a little bit more, like, players under the weather, right? Like a little bit, you don't want to say like an excuse, right? But like a more valid reason to lose to like the Florida Mayhem. Also, the Florida Mayhem could just be playing really good. Where the Outlaws, right? Like this is a team that, is at full strain, operating in a meta that you think they could be successful at, right? With the players that they have. Where their loss is a little bit worse to me.
Yeah, I feel that. Chorong is able to find Barrett actually at the start of this round, right? A really exciting player to see move across from playing Lucio, where he was also really aggressive and there was a lot of skill expression in his playstyle. Hopper there going to be desuited as he tries to get away from Creative. Toronto start with point control on virtue of Merritt being out of the picture early in the round, but that looks to be rectified pretty quickly.
And I'm surprised that they're not going to just play Hotba on the Zarya. Like, trying to play the D.Va into the Zarya is so difficult. Even, like, now Zarya with, like, flankers kind of, like, can work, right? We see Zarya with Genji a ton, like, even with Tracer. So, I'm not sure if I was Toronto, right, I would commit to this D.Va play, because you get into the backline, they're going to have the Immortality Field, the boops for displacement, and then you're just going to get beamed down with Dante getting all that charge off of Bubble and the support. So I'd like to see them just kind of match in that Zarya mirror.
Yeah, isn't that comp a little outdated? We were seeing this like a couple weeks ago, right? Team starting to move away from it. I think Finale actually buffered the potential knockback by dashing forward there, but Merritt's able to finish the job. Railgun made it so Finale would die to the disruptor shot.
I'd also say if you are the Defiant, there's less reason to like show what you possibly could play in the play-in rather than like, the Outlaws, by the time they get to the playoffs, right? You have Kariko in the mix and whatnot. Like, the compositions they're going to be playing are completely different, right? I know when we go into the play-in, it's going to be the same exact patch. So do you want to show your opponent in the play-in like what you're going to play or plan to play on these exact, maps and whatnot? Especially when this match doesn't really impact your seeding at all, right? There's really no reason to commit to play that exact way.
Big EMP here as Toronto hold on to a large number of those ults, and Finale not able to finish the Immortality Field, but Hopper is going to be there to get the job done. Pelican forced away again by Chorong, who seems to really have his number, keeping the Defiant in a position to accrue more of this capture percentage. And it'll be an even game before the Outlaws have a chance to touch here, but both teams, ton of ultimates. The Graviton Surge, obviously the threat of that is constantly looming. Dante lets it go here. It's not eaten up, and Finale's able to at least trade for Creative, but the grab pays off. Dante for 2.
Yeah, it's going to be the Outlaws now making their way towards the points, trying to take it. I mean, do you try and contest this if you're Toronto? You have the Transcendence. It would be a little bit of a throw there, but Hoppa's got the self-destruct. Oh, he's getting taken out right as he's trying to get back in the mech. That's going to be the Transcendence here. As Chorong just extend